Hello and welcome to Technopedia India. This is Ruhan Narula and today I am here to give you guys a detailed review of everything that happened to launch on the last Apple event which happened on 8th March. So I'm very excited to tell you guys, and yes, we did get a lot of updates this year. So let's get right to it. First of all, I have to mention that the event was quite nice and I could really relate to it because some of the products that launched were specifically dedicated to the people who work in a studio. And by the people who work in a studio, I mean videographers, photographers, content creators, or even music artists. And basically the people who need this kind of power. These devices include the all-new Mac Studio and Studio Display. Let's start with the Mac Studio. It is an awesome device with so much power, and we were expecting a new Mac Mini, but turns out we got a thicker Mac Mini. That's what I like to call it, even though it's Mac Studio and it has so much more power than Mac Mini, but the design just looks like a thicker Mac Mini. Before we start talking about all the advancements that Apple made inside the Mac Studio, I have to mention that I love Apple Silicon and I love what Apple has lately been doing with their silicon. For example, take a look at the 24-inch iMac. It's such a thin device and Apple was able to stuff so much power into it even though it's so thin. Take a look at the last iMac before this one. It used to be so thick and it used to have this sort of a design. It wasn't straight, but now it's completely flat and it's much more thinner. It's just 11.5 millimeters thin and it looks amazing, and I can't believe they were able to put so much power into such a thin device, and I love it. I love the new colors. I love everything about it. This Apple event, we got a new chip into the M1 family called M1 Ultra, and it's literally twice the power of one M1 Max because it's made out by joining two M1 Maxes. And M1 Max was pretty mind-blowing already, and then they just go on and make M1 Ultra. And the specs of the chip are pretty nice as well. It actually features a 20-core CPU, a 64-core GPU, and 128 gigabytes of unified memory. Just compare it to the M1 Max, you can see how it's exactly double the power of one M1 Max. And it's really amazing how Apple can do this, how Apple can achieve this kind of power while still using so much less energy and still packing it all in so thin and good looking devices. Now let's talk about the design. Here are the dimensions, and it has quite a lot of ports too. There are two Thunderbolt 4 ports in the front as well as an SD card slot. And in the back we have 4 more Thunderbolt 4 ports, one Ethernet port, one HDMI port, a headphone jack, and 2 USB-A ports, which is amazing, and I'm really glad that Apple actually waited a moment and actually thought of putting 2 USB-A ports in there too. It only comes in one color, which is silver, but I really hope that Apple would also include a space gray option because I actually happen to love the color space gray. The Mac Studio with M1 Max starts at Rs 1,89,900 and the Mac Studio with M1 Ultra starts at Rs 3,89,900, which yes is a lot, but I've also been thinking that if this is the kind of power that Apple has put in Mac Studio, I'm really excited to see what they will put in the Mac Pro. And if you really think about it, is this a replacement for the Mac Pro, and will Apple even launch another Mac Pro? I'm curious now. Let me know in the comments. The studio products that Apple launched this Apple event, including the Mac Studio and the Studio Display, work together really well and they create sort of a perfect setup. And the Studio Display also happens to be great and is definitely a more reasonable version of the Pro Display XDR, but it's still quite expensive here in India. It features a 27-inch 5K Retina display with breathtaking clarity and quality. Has an amazing 6-speaker system and a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera with center stage. And yes, this is the first time that center stage is there in Mac, and I'm really excited to see it in other Macs too. Another essential is a great microphone, and this display actually features a 3-mic array which Apple has lately been putting in most of their Macs, and it has a studio quality microphone which is great. The studio display starts at rupees 1,59,900 and the nano texture version starts at rupees 1,89,900. Now, I only recommend the nano texture version to the people who are going to use this in a room which actually happens to have a lot of windows. And what nano texture basically does is it reduces the reflection by a great amount, and it's actually very useful. But if you don't sit in a room with lots of windows that are directly putting glare on the display, then save some money and get the normal version. There's one thing that I don't understand, and this is something that Apple has lately been doing in all of their displays, also including the Pro Display XDR. Why do they make the stands so expensive? I mean, it's either equally priced to the studio display itself, the stand, or it's even more. Take a look at the pricing, and I feel like you can just get another third-party option for its own, and you don't need to spend equal amount of the display itself for the stand. And I feel like, why is Apple doing this? And I'm really curious to know why. Just why would Apple overprice the stand equally to the display? Next product that Apple launched is the iPhone SE 3, and this actually happens to feature literally the same design as the iPhone SE 2, which makes me feel so sad because Apple does not make an iPhone SE every year, and when they finally do, they just keep the design same with the same old home button, which I feel like it's a very old design and does not even have an edge-to-edge display. So I'm waiting for Apple to finally change the design, but yes, I do have to give them credits for upgrading the specs by so much. The new iPhone SE 3 has the same chip as the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro, the A15 Bionic, which is great, and it's really nice that we can get this kind of power in this reasonable price, same design but still a reasonable price. And there is one unfortunate thing that yes, Apple has increased the price from the iPhone SE 2 a bit, but not by so much, and I guess it's fine because they did add a lot of features. Only if they would have also changed the design, it would have actually made sense for the price to have increased. They also took a leap of 3 hours in battery life, and they also happened to improve the cameras by adding new features such as Smart HDR4 photographic styles and Deep Fusion. iPhone SE 3 is available in 3 colors: Product Red, Starlight and Midnight. It starts at Rs 43,900. Next, let's talk about Apple's current flagships, including the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro. This Apple event, we actually got a beautiful new color for both the phones. One is green in iPhone 13 and alpine green in iPhone 13 Pro, and they actually look very beautiful. The price hasn't increased. You can get the green color and the price will be same, and I really feel like that the color actually looks much better than the green that Apple actually had in the iPhone 11 Pro. Okay, now let's get to the last product for the day, which is the M1 iPad Air. And yes, we all expected this because Apple, when they introduced the iPad mini, it actually had better specs than the iPad Air, the previous iPad Air, and was even more reasonable. So that is why we were waiting for this upgrade of the iPad Air. Otherwise, people would have gone and bought the iPad mini instead of the iPad Air, and it wouldn't have been in the proper order for pricing. The new iPad Air now has the M1 chip. Yes, the same chip as the iPad Pro. And we will be really able to take advantage of this chip because of iPad OS 15. It has a 12 megapixel ultra wide front camera with center stage and a 12 megapixel wide back camera with 4K video. And it also has all day battery life. The colors are the same except of the fact that we have a new shade of blue. And it starts at Rs 54,900, which is great and is a reasonable price. So if you want to get it, you can order it now from Apple's website, and it will be available from 18th March. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Stay home, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.